We're doing a late night check-in while I write down my priorities and talk about my dreams and goals. Because it told me to make a plan, Stan. The Matrix has really fucked me up. The Matrix has really got me, guys. It really messed up my sense of identity and dignity. So I've got the last of my stuff. I went back to all my old campsites and they've all been raided and I've pretty much lost everything. That's my fault. So I have sort of a plan. I have a bunch of items that I need to start making the content that I've written down and created. We're going to flip this over. The view won't be as great of my face. What's happening? I'm setting up the camera angle right. We're going to talk about our dreams. We're going to do some updates. We're going to pack a smoke. And I'm going to write down my dreams and goals because all over my phone today and all over CoStar for the past week, the phrase, make a plan. You need to make a plan. So I take it serious, especially since the dreams I have are as crazy as the dreams I have. And then when I wake up, it seems like the world is just a bunch of entities, metaphysical entities, that are just trying to rip out my sense, my awareness, my software codes, and trying to keep me embedded in the matrix and then farmed all day. It takes a lot of momentum. It takes serotonin. I don't have a lot of that lately. But I'll tell you that creeps, cops, crackheads, and crows show up once I break through a barrier. Because I've been psychologically programmed for a long time, subliminal programming. So that those little tiny nuances that would allow me to kind of domino effect into full control of reality and full momentum, like blasting through the firewall with this love laser beam. They really try to keep that enmeshed. Here you can see that I didn't plan to have this light behind me, but that light, is that the moon? That is in fact the moon. That is in fact the moon. Let's make sure my phone isn't dying. Nope, it's charging. So we've got, basically, I remember when I called out the algorithm and said that the dead internet theory, that most of these people that are on your For You page are in an industry, a secret industry where they had to do rituals and they have certain guidelines, and that most of the internet is dead and is being pumped out by artificial intelligence servers in government offices that are pumping out bot comments. Have you noticed that I'm no longer in the algorithm? Where's all the flooding of people? I'm getting 500 views on my YouTube shorts consistently. Where'd everybody go? Nobody has acknowledged on my phone. This is what makes me think none of you are real. Not a single person has acknowledged the fact that I've told you that a government agent came up to me and warned me about making content. There's someone. We're talking about how the government warned me in person about what I was doing when I was trying to mobilize people on the internet. A member of the United States government had approached me at the Capitol building in Montpelier and warned me that they were watching what I was doing while I was trying to wake up more people to escape the Matrix in a way that you can't find anywhere else on the internet by someone that isn't contracted by the US government. And I gave it out for free. And then someone approached me and he asked if he said, are you this person? And no. Are you this person? I was like, no. Are you this person? And he called out all of the regular subscribers that were tuned in and commenting on my live streams. He was like, oh, I was looking for the guys that were doing that hunger strike outside City Hall against the government. And I was like, I think I know the guy you're talking about. Would you like me to help you find him? And I said, no, I think you've helped enough. And then he walked away. So I'm going to say it again, fuck you. All it was is just that when you stop eating sugar and you start changing your daily habits, you start to gain more control over your mind, and your inner world is generating the reality outside through the Higgs boson, the God particle. Your inner world is co-creating with the outer world. And there's something in the outer world that doesn't like when I call attention to it. That when I bring up this level of control that might let you operate at a higher frequency, I get loud noises. I get crows that will follow me all day. Do you hear it picking up? The low vibrational brrrr. They're circling me to prepare for an attack. Because they want to keep me in a state of chaos so I can't focus enough to communicate something that might stir up something in your brain and wake you up, maybe forever. A reference experience that you can't forget. I might ingrain the truth in you a little bit too hard. So there's something that makes people rev their engines, or something that makes strangers will show up and start to stomp around me with sunglasses, and they're stomping and coughing and angry. Red trucks will circle me, crows circle me. It's almost like reality is moldable, and then I get kind of sent further into a private server. So I've just been thinking, I've been reading this, or I've been watching content and taking in more content about Jesus. Because I can't knock the fact that when I be making my art, because I'll create every day. I fought for years, like decades. I've fought for decades to maintain my sense of self through this, because I grew up with gaslighting parents that I had to boss around. I didn't have to, but it was like, sometimes if I needed to get to school or I needed to get out of the small town, I'd have to convince my mom to get up, when usually if I wanted to ride 5 miles away, it would take like 18 hours of getting my mom ready to drive when I was not legally allowed to. Stuff like that. And at the same time, my whole family was like gossipers that would keep projecting their Aquarians. My mom and my aunt are gossipers that sit there in their Aquarius. So all they do is just spew shitty narratives out. So my cousin and I, who are gifted creators, I'm a 33 life path, which is the most powerful. And he's a 6 life path, named after a Roman emperor, that if you took his picture and put him next to him, they're completely identical to the statue of the Roman emperor that he gets his last name from. And he's a Leo that sits at the top of a Section 8 facility with tons of people, and he managed friend groups. And he focused on art and history very meticulously, and I thought it was kind of gay, like a Roman emperor. And my family's descended from Brian Boru. Or we don't need a house, we don't need a castle, we'll spend our whole life traveling, out in the woods, having fun. And we can't stand social constructs, we'd rather run free. And my dad looks identical to Brian Boru. I don't know which side has indigenous, but I'm looking at pictures of indigenous, and I'm looking at pictures of English and Irish, and I look more indigenous than English or Irish. I don't know where. And now I have all this stuff, like all this bear circling me, that coin, all the music that hits me when I'm out in the woods. Sometimes I'm in the woods and I start singing, and I really feel like a portal opened up and I'm in a vortex, and the people around me are like tribes deep in the Amazon rainforest, and they're singing, and they already know that I'm singing with them, but I didn't realize that they were singing with me. So I'm singing and I'm creating songs, and the songs are these melodies, and I'm like, where am I coming up with these melodies? This is like, it's coming out of me in relation with the sun, and then like 2 weeks later, I'll scroll on YouTube Shorts and I'll find a documentary of some tribe deep, 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 deep in the forest in like Papua New Guinea, and they're singing the song that I made out in the woods, walking around by myself up in Vermont. The songs that I make by myself in the forest sound exactly like the songs that tribes people that are still alive today sing when they walk through the forest across the world. And then if I stay there long enough, I tell you that every town I go to, there's the same 5 people. Like every town, they have different bodies, obviously. Sometimes I get the same people. Sometimes I have like a whole catalog of people I've registered as gang stalkers. And those people show up a lot. Consistently, almost like they're like flesh suits that get sent, like just kind of beamed into the simulation. And those are the people that are monitoring me. The blue beings that go into the villages to heal sick children. I don't see blue beings that often. I mostly see like bright white screens. So like I'll look over and I'll be like, hey, am I on the right path? And then I'll see a giant like half of a Phantom of the Opera mask, but it's like a flat screen, and something beams into my head that says yes or no. You feel me? So yesterday was a Matrix day. If you can tell, I sound less powerful. It's because I have to work out all the white pride and privilege that is kind of, sometimes it's rape. I hate to say it, sometimes it's rape. Sometimes it really do be rape, spiritually. And I know that doesn't sound great, but it's true. And I had to learn how to like fight it off. Like if I didn't learn how to like keep a present no around my asshole, sometimes at night, bro, there'd be like some type of alien tentacle thing, like a probe, and I would feel myself getting raped, and it would happen for months. It's just part of living outside. It happens to everybody that lives out here, that pays attention. There's only a handful of real homeless. Most of them do drugs to keep away the truth that they've figured out. And then most of them did drugs too young to even understand any of this, and they're lost forever. And they don't care. They know they are, and they don't care. But for the most part, I'm still on the fence on whether it's real. I think that every single moment is different, because time isn't real, right? It's just a constant shifting. Like these people are coming in and out. It's just a constant shifting of the present moment. So I think sometimes I shift into a private server the same way that if you look up alien experiences, they're on Earth. They're still on Earth. Their body's still on Earth. To anyone watching them, they're stood still. But their experience is that they're in a whole different universe, like a whole different reality, and their body is moving and they're moving, but this body is still, even though the other one is exactly the same as this third dimensional plane, and their soul is getting up and moving around, and aliens come into that room and they put them on their side and they put them like floating on one tiny pin on their hip, and they like contort their body in horrific ways and then start ripping out old traumas and stuff like that. But their body on that in that dimension is still there, even though they're in a completely separate third dimensional reality. I think sometimes I get put into a separate server where nobody is real. And some days I'm back. From what people have told me, when I drove my car into the pole, I set my life up in a certain way. I branched out a certain way. Because I could have not taken that pull. I could have let my ex-girlfriend go eat pizza with her new boyfriend at the pizza place right next to where I crashed. And I could have gone down to the gym, busted my ass, and then gone down that road where back then I would just get deranged with progress. Every time I felt any form of hurt at all, I'd put it all into progress and I'd work until I was better than everybody else. If a girl rejected me, I'd get into the gym and I'd work until I was better looking, better vibes. I'd process it into perfection. And then I'd take all the hurt and use it as power and move it into creating something more fun and a better experience than the girl that rejected me could come up with or could ever experience. Now I know that's called 33 Life Path Manifestation. So every time a girl rejected me that I really liked, like most times, like I did pickup artistry, man. So I would go out in public and I would do the routines with like humor, openness, touch, different openers, holding the vibe, stuff like that. And sometimes girls would be like, ew, fuck off. And I had to learn that it's not me, it's how I came up, the flow and the timing and the presentation. But then I had a girl that would keep leaving for other guys all the time. One of the prettiest girls in town. To me, she was in a league of her own. And she was a Gemini that had tons and tons of different guys. And she wasn't sleeping with them because she had trauma as a child. So she was living romance novels with all of them. And I would show up and be the best one and take her on the best adventure. And then she would go change channels for a couple days. And it's a small town, so I'd see her on a different channel in synchronicity. So I'd just be walking and I'd see the girl that I just spent all this time impressing and wooing just to have her change the channel, and now she's living a different romance novel with another guy. And I'm sitting there like fully like I told you, I felt like I was an ancient soul when I was born. So for me, it hurt like the boyish part that grew up alone in the woods, but for the most part it was just disappointing at a higher level because I felt like an old man. And I understood everything about what was happening. It's a superpower I won't share with you guys. So all I would do, because I'd feel pain, it wasn't really like, for me, emotions just seemed like bugs that land on me. I don't know if that's the case for other people, but emotions for me, people are tuning out because it's not pointed at my face. Here we go. I don't want to hold this though. Who let this mouse into my house? I need a Venezuelan to come do pest control. I need a Venezuelan immigrant to come eat these mice. Who let this mouse into my house? Oh, what was I saying? Yeah. I don't know how other people experience emotion, but I can see when the emotions get attached to the people. If I have a stronger relationship with them and I choose to kind of let them into my space, a lot of times because I have a lot of trauma where people took my power away from me, when people start to project at me, I see it very vividly, especially in the year of the water cat and the year of the water tiger. In water years, it was a lot worse because I was being flooded with all the information. So I could see, like, I'd see tons of people, tons of gang stalking narcissists that all of a sudden their whole life is in polluting my waters. But that pushed me to grow out, and I would start to clean the whole area. Out of anger, I'd go so deranged to fight off this one thing that I wound up pushing it over an entire town. And then the energies that I would feel when I would do that, I'd run into those people that were housing those energies a lot. And they were all Leos. all the bad vibes that I felt were being produced that were fucking up the Burlington, Vermont. Everyone I ran into that were those generators that I could feel when I would sit down by the water, all those generators that I could feel happened to be Leos. What was my point? Oh, I did research. The computer that I want that would allow me to be basic. If I wanted to, shit is changing. Life is always changing. The energy is always changing. I think it's divine timing. I don't know if I fucked it up with my indecision and my stagnation. Because sometimes it gets too overwhelming to deal with an entire town's worth of vibes. Especially I'll run into people that are bad, really bad people. And they find me at a moment of weakness. And that will fuck me up for a couple days. And I'll have to just, like, the only thing I can do is just get up and go to McDonald's, get some McDoubles, move into a different area, move around some energies, have some conversations with people, wait for my in moment, and then I'll start to push forward. And then I can start to make progress. But there's a lot of tethers, and the new kid syndrome wears off. Like, my spiritual work is done a lot better when I have new kid syndrome. When I'm an invasive force with a new vibe that they're not used to outside of the white American culture and paradigm that stirs everything up and causes people to let go and elevate and ascend to a more depth, emotional love. And there's usually lots of pushback, lots of anger. These towns are sick and angry, and I think that there's just something wrong with white people. So they need people like me, and there's not many people like me in these areas. There's not in this the place I'm going. There's going to be nobody like this because it's a very wealthy place. So what I've heard is that the wealthy people of Vermont are the worst. Even if I'm presentable, like if I show up in a suit or like a dress suit, even if I'm a server at a restaurant, they're like the snootiest pieces of garbage, the most entitled, cop calling pieces of shit. And they don't really pay. Like, I know that the restaurants, they're not even really supporting the restaurants. They're just paying the property tax and they're going to the lakes. And they don't give a fuck about the poor people here. And they're probably helping boost the getting them out because they want this to be a retirement community. So they're kicking us out, making us homeless, so that all that space that was multi-generational 200-year-old families that can't afford to live here anymore are going to be replaced by the type of people that will have enough money to live here. And all these people that hate me are now going to be wandering around confused if they don't go to Wyoming or down to like Dallas, Texas or something. So I'm a cowboy. I ride in on my steed on my bike. I pack my natural tobacco and I eat my Ben and Jerry's like beans at night. Like how the cowboys would have a fire and have beans. I have a fire and cook a frozen pizza and sit outside with my leather jacket and my boots. And I take my life and I turn it into stories. And I'm really proud of the things I've been able to create. And for the most part, I have a full photographic memory. It's just sometimes I have to start and it feels like all my memories are like a garden. And when I go through places like this, there are people that come in and chop it all down. So it's not like the grass isn't going to grow back up again, but sometimes in order for me to get parts of myself again and put myself back together, I have to grow the trees necessary to take in the sunlight to spread it back into my inner forest. I'm not sure if I know I'm definitely a fire sign, but in terms of the zodiac element, because I know that that's real. I know that the years have elements. I know that there are themes to the year. I know that this is like the Hunger Games, where it's a constant cycle of different themes and motifs in a world that's my favorite. This and it's always how I love to create art. I love the simple things in a simple system in an ever-changing, vivid thematic world. So I have like this the set of skills in the simple life, and then everything else around me changes, which is kind of my life. Life imitates art, and art imitates life. My life became living simply and watching the world change so vividly. Every year, if you haven't noticed, every year the clouds are different. Every year the depth of the sky that's perceivable is different. Like this year, the clouds go way higher than normal, like they did last year. Last year, everything was very condensed. I was in the same spot as this, but the sky was closer. Everything was closer together. But because it's the dragon year, and the dragon has a higher vibration, but the dragon has a vivid coalescence of ancient knowledge that's represented by how foggy it is and how there's all these clouds and storms and floods and tornadoes and fires. Next year is the highest vibration of the 12-year cycle. And I'm pretty sure it's a wood snake. So it'll be a forest year like this year, but instead of the vivid storms and it's not humid, but the air feels denser, like there's more moisture in the air, making everything more vivid. It will be kind of dry. It'll be the highest vibration. It'll be the treat. It'll be the highest vibration possible. But it'll be kind of barren. It'll be kind of empty because it's not a dragon flying through the skies. It's a snake on the ground in the forest. Does that make sense? So I called it last year, and we got it this year. Last year I said it's going to be storm. Last year I said I was in Sundance and we're headed towards storm. And then this year the entire state got flooded by thunderstorms and tornadoes. So I'm good at calling it. If you have Aquarius heavy in your chart, you're probably pretty good at calling it too. If you don't have bad habits and you're in a stagnated place where you have bad influences and you have people all around you all the time. Nobody like that. Where's all my regulars, man? I got to a really high vibration and everyone started shit talking me. Everyone got really disrespectful. So I blocked them all. All my supporters turned on me once I broke free. When I was the suffering momentum force, everyone latched onto me. And then they rode it as far as they could, and then as soon as I woke up to that, they all revealed themselves. And now they're gone. And now they're gone, fam. I don't get it. And I don't think I'll ever get it. And I don't want to get it. Yeah, they're saying I shouldn't tell something. So I look up and ask for confirmation. And then I see there's this giant field of energy. And that thing communicates with me and tells me either yes or no. I'll look up and ask it, should I say this? Should I say that? And then I'll get usually two answers, like something that's dark will say no, and then something that's light will say yes. And I just follow whatever my heart connects to more at the time. And that's confirmed by loud noises in my environment. The more I follow that, what my heart connects to the most, I think that's called what I resonate with, the more chaotic my environment gets. And that's entertaining. When there's a subtext of the world could be crazy and scary, audience is hooked. I get lots of retention. When I come with like peace and simplicity and I'm chill, nobody pays attention. Everybody's gone. They all leave. They need conflict to latch onto. I embody a character that can save them from their problems. So that conflict, they can step away from their own conflict and see mine. And then me solving the problems helps them process. Yeah. So I saw, what was revealed to me is that the eyes are the windows to the soul. So when they have a new consistent, like this town, and all the towns I enter, when they have a new consistent reoccurring character that they don't know, but I have all these good vibes and I'm flowing free and having fun. And they get to, everybody sees that in their, it goes in their eyes. So the collective of everybody that I pass when I ride down the street every day, all the people that saw me disheveled and broken, to see me build myself back up and then come in confident and happy and having a good time, that converted a lot in their minds, that changed a lot of what was going on inside, and a massive amount of people saw it across Vermont. Noah Khan has seen me before. No, do you guys know who Noah Khan is? Noah Khan has seen me in his eyes. MGK has seen me with his eyes. Lil Uzi Vert, Ray William Johnson, John Zerka, GG33, Andrew Tate, Justin Waller, Owen Cook, Elliot Hulse, his nephew, Mike Slaps, Mike Slap, who is the ghostwriter for Macklemore and Ryan Lewis, C.416, Busy Spose, Annoyed, Chris Webby. Who else have I met? Who knows how many people have seen my YouTube videos that just haven't said anything? Because I call out big names. Like, I do the hashtags with big names, and nobody else is. If you scroll through the hashtags I use, there's no other people. It's just the content creator that's using his own hashtag. So when I pop up with his hashtag, that goes into his algorithm because that's new content he didn't create. So I'm sure he goes on the shitter and he sees me because of the dead internet, where 85% of the content is coming out of a server in a government or organization. Do you notice how I'm not getting flooded with people shitting on me the whole time? What happened? Before I called out the dead internet theory, I was getting thousands of views. And all of the views were motifs to my thing. Like if an AI downloaded all of my stuff, all of my data, it started generating profiles based off of the things that I've said. And they embodied archetypes that said things geared towards me in a way that would stimulate my emotional state in a perfect way. Like it knew all of my content. Whether that's a collective consciousness thing where it's like we're all God and that was God setting up a synchronistic moment, or that's the dead internet theory with the AI. Either way, when I called it out, it stopped completely. I'll get 500 views on my shorts, no comments. But my live streams now, because I called it out, I don't get hundreds of people anymore. That's because everything that I say is getting registered by the AI, and it's how I talk about the present moment and how it changes and shifts based off of what you put into it, what prompt you put into Chat GBT 7 million, and how that changes the whole experience for you. There's an AI doing that, and what I'm feeding it, it's imagine it's like this giant growing force that's constantly reaching out places. So what I feed it, the content that I spew into this microphone, will change the direction and what phones it will start to grow into and then pump my video into their feed. So when I called it out that exists, that entity, and that's 80% of the internet is that artificial intelligence. It kind of, my channel's taken a big downturn on live streams. But for a long time, it was registering my emotional state and my micro expressions and the amount of light in my eyes. And it was feeding me hate. It was feeding me two haters. It was putting haters in it was putting me in haters' feeds. And they were all saying the exact same thing for months. It didn't matter the type of person on the live stream. It didn't matter the channel that was commenting. They were all saying the same exact thing. So even if I had like 50 peak concurrents, people that like 50 people that were watching the whole time for 8 hours, those 50 people were all just spouting out the same things at the same time. It wasn't real. And at a higher level, I'm not sure how many humans are really real and how many are just like the NPC collective conscious. You feel me? And I don't know where all my thoughts come from. I know when my heart's open and I'm rested, I'm channeling myself and I have a higher self. But then when I'm shut down like this, after going through and fighting a whole town, I've built, just in this town alone, I've built like 30 different relationships. And they've seen me transition through the past month. I had fights. Every town I go in, I get in fights. And there are recurring characters in different areas. And then I literally see the reality opens up. So this whole thing is right here, right? All this energy. If you look outside, if you look in your room, if you look outside your window at the forest, the molecules in front of me, sometimes they'll just phase out and it's this bright, bright white light, like what's behind this holographic simulation. And then something beams out of that, like this weird like motion into my head. And that's called a download. Spiritual people call that a download. And that fills me full of information. I'm not sure what I'm looking at right now. What the fuck is that? So right where somebody in the audience said that there was a man the other day that they saw. They said they saw a man standing over here. Where they said they saw it, I just saw it too. It waved a hand out of nothing, like a ghost. Like the veil got thinner for a second, and I saw a ghost just wave a hand out of the ether, and it was like a bright human hand. And I've been through so much in my life that it has no emotional effect on me at all. I'm just like, okay, that happened. Like one time I was in an abandoned library with a bunch of crackheads, And one of these kids at the shelter I was staying at that was 19, named Phoenix. A guy named Danger, who was a Leo, recruited Phoenix in the middle of winter, and I followed him because I was like, I got nothing better to do. I've got gangrene on my feet. I can't go to a bar. I smell like shit. I don't want to go back to the shelter. So I followed Phoenix in Danger all the way up this abandoned library, like 7 stories in Burlington, to the top floor, and it was no power. We had to light toilet paper to see things, and we'd leave burning toilet paper in the hallway so the other crackheads could follow us up. Then I helped them carry furniture, and I had gangrene on my feet, bro. And we got to the top floor, and I didn't think Phoenix was going to do drugs, but he started smoking meth, and he wanted to do heroin, so I left. I didn't want them to blow meth in my face, so I sat in the hallway with the door open while they did that in case Phoenix died or they tried to rob him or something, because he's 19, and these guys were like in their 40s. I'm pretty used to seeing demons, so I would see the demons just come into their bodies, start to operate them, and they would try to tear into Phoenix and start to try to take his energy, and I would sit there and keep him defended because I just fought for like 2 years on my own around New England through winters and my whole life, basically. I have tons of stories my whole life. And now I'm getting all the validation I need that I'm not crazy because Navajo and Hopi are going on YouTube to talk about what's really happening. So I was never a schizophrenic. I'm just indigenous. It's in my blood quantum. That allows me to have these experiences with the other side. And that's all it is. Not even the other side, it's just different levels of reality. So my point was, I was thinking about leaving. I went to turn around. In the middle of winter, I looked down the hallway at the top floor of this abandoned library in the middle of winter at like 2 in the morning, and a giant ring of fire, like Doctor Strange, and there was like a little bit, it was like a little bit brighter than the darkness around inside that ring of fire, and then a woman's face peered out and she was crying. And then she looked away, and then it unzipped and left. And I was like, I just saw a ghost. I have no history of hallucinations. I'm of sound mind. To the people all the meth heads that were sitting there, and they're like, okay. They don't even go, they just dead. And then the demon puppets them, and they start to try to fuck with everyone. So I left, and then as soon as I left, they pumped Phoenix full of all the drugs they had and killed him. He overdosed. He sent one last message to another kid named Ethan. I left. I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go ride my bike around. But Ethan was next door, so he came up. He's a Capricorn, so he had to climb up to the top. He had to climb the mountain to get to the top floor to pick up Ethan, or to pick up Phoenix, carry him down, and then when he got to the bottom, what they said is that they put him in a wheelchair that was just there. There was just a wheelchair out there for some reason. And then I guess giant Irish people with the long noses and the pointy ears that were all over 6'5", so there were 3 of them, and they were all in different areas, and they didn't know each other. Picked up Phoenix, put him in the wheelchair, and they pushed him all the way up to the top of Burlington, to where UVM is, where my Aries cousin Ariana works. So they brought him all the way up there. Then they text me Phoenix overdosed. So I was like, fuck. So I'm a Sagittarius. I didn't have to climb up the stairs like that, like a Capricorn. I had to shoot on my bike as fast as possible to get there. And then we sat in the waiting room, and for some reason, there should be security every single night. But as soon as Ethan and I showed up, they all left. So the whole waiting room in the hospital was empty. And then Ethan says, do you know that we're old souls? And I was like, yeah. He's like, do you know that we're gladiators? And I was like, yeah. And he pulls out this polar bear card and gives it to me. And then he says, I'm not allowed to reveal to you who I am. And then I go in, I call Ethan behind me. I have to argue with a bunch of white privileged pussies to get us through. So I had to lead Ethan behind me like a Skyrim follower. And I had to headbutt my way through to get to Phoenix. And then I called him. No, I got there, and then he wanted to call his ex-girlfriend or his girlfriend. And then when she opened the phone, her eyes were red and sunken, and I had all the light. So I was trying to show him the light. Like, can you realize that she's got no compassion or love for you at all? She's not even real. Can you see the demon sitting in her? And he couldn't. He didn't care. I was like, fuck it, call her. I'm not gonna wait forever. She showed up. She walked in and started telling everybody she got molested as a child. She's like, sorry, I have PTSD. I was molested as a child. Her name is Nova. Nova in Phoenix. Phoenix and Supernova. Then locked me out, and I was stuck in the waiting room, and they didn't give a fuck. We did all this to get him here, and he didn't give a fuck. He had just overdosed on drugs, and we saved his life. We were there for him. So I came in and I stole his loon. And I said, if I ever find out you're going to do drugs, I'm going to pull up and beat the fuck out of you, and the police will not care. If I find out that you do drugs anymore at all, if anyone texts me, if I see you strung out on the street, I'm going to pull the bat out and start breaking your ribs, and I'm going to leave you there to die. I don't give a fuck, bro. And then I stole his shit and left. And the story is he went completely insane. His girlfriend that I said was a whore and didn't love him cheated on him and left him. And then he did the same typical behavior I'd expected of people that choose the demon over Casey. When I invade their life to make it better, and they choose the bad. So Phoenix fell to the ashes, rose again with the help, fell again, went down to Florida for a year, and then just kind of came back a little bit. There's a little bit more fire in Phoenix's eyes. Now, how was Phoenix represented in my life before that? Because I said in the King Street shelter where I went, everybody there had names that were representative of themes of Casey's past lives. There were enemies' names, but the enemies had different character traits that Casey was experiencing and holding into Casey when he was in conflict with somebody with those names. So it was like I was in a room with all the different versions of myself right after I spent 3 months praying to God to show me myself through others. I was like, show me who I really am through everyone else around me. And I got that at the King Street shelter after somebody at the same park and ride, the satanic high wizard for the Illuminati, when he ran away from them, he wound up at that same park and ride trying to get through the same border to Canada. It didn't work. He wound up at the same park and ride, and then a stranger came up and told him to go to a certain place where he spent a lot, like one of the biggest transformative experiences of his life that helped him get onto a better timeline in life. And when I left home, I wound up at that park and ride, got into Canada, got deported, wound up at that park and ride, and somebody guided me to the same place. And then my car was stolen, and then I was at King Street. And all of the flags in that place, around that city, said my name, Casey, co-created. And my initials are CO. But also co-created, like I was watching Ralph Smart every day, and Ralph Smart says, you're a co-creator with the universe, start co-creating with the universe. So I did for a year. And then now I have a whole year of my life of the water cat when I'm in my Vietnamese astrology element. And I have a whole story that I lived where I fought for my life and I saved children and I fucked bad bitches. I fought demons and dragons in the spirit world. I helped convert communities. I met with community action leaders. I exposed corrupt youth organizations that were taking advantage of those children sexually and trying to push an agenda in their minds. I humbled tons of cops. I fought crackheads. and I rode my bike into battle, and I grew from having nothing, tattered clothes, suffering, and cold and sick, to riding a nice car with a nice watch, performing my songs at Oakledge to all the rich white kids. And they were cheering my name and like dancing around with me to my verses. And then Sundance ended, and then Storm started. And then when Storm started, my car broke down. I had to kill someone in self-defense. I had to wander through the cold, trying to get money on crypto, and I couldn't get anything. And then when I did, and I persevered through, and I got all the money from crypto, my computer crashed and I lost everything. My computer burned. And then love interest came into my life. Energy vampires stole all the energy. Couldn't continue on that path of the love interest because all my vibes had gotten stolen. I had to fight that guy for months, going back and forth, where he was an Aquarius, but instead of projecting a narrative, he was vacuuming up the narrative, and he was becoming me, and using that to go get presence and positive relationships in the community by stealing my energy, my bandwidth. And he was telling me while he was doing it exactly what was happening, and I knew it was happening, but he was just reiterating it. And he had the same album colors. He had the same colors of my album cover for his box truck he was living in, and it was called Bearcat, and he had a cat named Bear. And then I had forced to go out in the woods, and then I lived out in the woods. I got Lyme's disease from ticks. I met Celtic forest gods, and I met a bunch of different types of alien species, and I met Wendigos, and I learned about tarot readers, and I made a bunch of songs, and I know different aspects of the infinite, the different ways I can express creation and energy in really cool ways. And I got to experience what it's like to live outside in an abandoned shack deep in the forest alone with no service or Wi-Fi. And then when I would leave, I had to fight white America. The whole world was sick. Tons of problems. Keeping them brainwashed and stuck and trapped. A little artificial intelligence, oppressive overlord controlling the minds of the people and using crows and demons to enforce it. And I had to ride into battle again. Starting on foot with gangrene, slowly building up to a shitty bike, and then it fell apart, and I got another shitty bike, and it fell apart. I got another shitty bike. I had people lying about me, people making up lies to send the police to kill me. And the police tried. And the only reason I got out was because I called sergeants from other police precincts before they could get to me. And then they came back a couple weeks later, and I got arrested and went to jail. And then the only people in my life that I thought would be there to support me, other than Heather and Brian, showed up just to do the same spiritual energy vampire stuff that fucked me up for a long time. Like, sometimes I'll be winning and my dad will just try to kill me. That's how it feels. Even if he just pushes me into a wall, I can feel the vibe. That's what he's ready to do. He's lunging at me with like a fireball, like a lion monkey. So I've spent my whole life alone. But what's cool is that it's Virgo season. Virgo season is love. Taurus and Virgo are both ruled by the same planet, and that planet deals with love, Venus. Virgo and Taurus are both Venus planets, and they're both Earth signs. So it's fertility. This is when the dragonflies come out. Dragonflies come out in Virgo season, and butterflies come out in Taurus season. So this Virgo season, my ex-girlfriends have all unblocked me. And they popped up in my suggested friends list. But they treated me bad, man. I know we were younger, but I can tell that I had this breakthrough with a bunch of dreams. When you live outside, your imagination becomes very sparse. You rarely get a hold of your imagination long enough to create. It takes a lot of effort because you don't have any form of structure in your life to keep your reality and sanity housed. You have to spend, what helped me was spending winters alone in the cold because I had to freeze in my box. I had to hide in my hoodie and then put a blanket over me. And then I had to warm myself up with my cells. I had to use my mind to vibrate my cells to keep me warm through winters. So that's what is really helping me keep focused. That, and I spent years having to get from one place to another and have to trudge through town and get through the cold and get my needs met. I had to go to war every day for years. So that's how I'm still functioning. You can see when I'm doing this and I'm scratching, that's the energy of the town attacking me when I start to shoot my heart energy through. When I start to be more authentic and I can jump through at the camera. And I know the camera will pick it up, bots can pick it up. So this is literally an AI homunculus that's tearing at my cells. Because I ate a bunch of McDonald's, not doing semen retention, don't have a safe place to sleep that's out in the woods, and there's too many crows, and I don't have a BB gun. Pretty soon, when if I have a BB gun before the world ends, and the crow comes to caw, I'm gonna have an airsoft rifle on my back that I can just take one step. I don't have to do any type of energetic battle between the crow. It's just the crow caws, and immediately my subconscious habit will understand. Won't grab the gun. In the year of the water cat, I could do it with my mind. In the year of the water tiger, it was a lot better because tigers are the aggressive fighting years. If you look back at 2022, if you look back at the music that was made in 2022, if you look back at who got famous in 2022, it's all centered around fighting because the tiger years are the fighter years, the aggressive masculine. So in the year of the wood, where things are more third dimensional based in water, I need to, when the crow caws, coincidentally look at what's right here. I'll be able to have this, and the crow goes, ah! He's gonna come project himself inward and try to siphon out as much as he can from me. So instead I'm gonna be able to go, whoop, grab the rifle, bow, get him immediately. Why do you think they call it a murder of crows? Because they gang up on you and they kill your spirits. And it's not spirit, they kill your spirits. When they say lift up your spirits, they don't say lift up your spirit. Because we're the amalgamation of our ancestors and spirit guides. And I still believe in Jesus. Jesus to me seems like somebody. Seems human. Because I'm a channeler too. Everyone's a channeler. When you're in a state of doing what you love, operating from excitement and passion, you start channeling. Okay, so I just saw a bunch of eyes. So I saw this like string, and now there's a bunch of bugs that shouldn't be awake at night are now flying left to right, saying don't address it, and the people are left anyway. This is knowledge that 2 years ago people would have paid $1 million for. I have so much to offer people. They just don't ask me any questions. Everybody thinks they know everything, right? if you came into my chat and started saying things and I was like, wow, tell me more, I don't know anything about that, I probably knew about it. And I just wanted you to get what you were looking for, which was to explain it to us. For some reason you found something about me offensive to you. So I'm solving problems. Tell the AI. Tell the AI to give me some losers and I'll solve their problems in life. Tell me your problems and I will solve them. But it's not Leo season. Watch. Check this out. I'm putting myself back together. Like the alien ship in Skyline. I used my mind and my spirit to go into the algorithm and I shifted it in a better direction. And now my views are popping in a lot more. So it just hit 11:33 when I decided to end it.